Hi, this is Ron Darling.
This is Skip Lockwood.
Hi, I'm Ron Swoboda of the 69 New York Mets, and you're listening to Mets Musings with Gary Mack.
Now it's time for some New York Mets baseball talk. Here's Gary Mack bringing you the latest news and analysis from Mets Nation and the world of baseball on another edition of Mets Musings.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Mets Musings, and I'm still in shock. If you're like me, you're probably in shock too. After that game last night, the whole week, it has just been an incredible roller coaster ride, starting with Sunday and then the doubleheader on Monday, winning the first game, getting into the playoffs, and then coming into Milwaukee on Tuesday without any time off, winning that game, losing on Wednesday, and of course, last night's game, the clincher, the elimination game, and to be honest, they looked flat. They looked dead as a doornail, but Francisco Lindor got them going again, and of course, capped it all off with the Pete Alonso 3-run homer to put them ahead for good, and then a little extra topping on the ice cream there was Starling Marte singling in Jesse Winker after Winker got on base and stole second base. And he's been fighting some back issues, but he did a fine job there. Stole second, came home with that insurance run, which really put the dagger in the crowd. It just silenced the crowd in Milwaukee, and the Mets went on to beat the Brewers. David Peterson come in, got the 1-2-3, gave up a hit, but a big double play by Terang that he hit a one bouncer to Lindor, and Terang was a thorn in the side of the Mets. So I guess it's kind of apropos in a way that he made the last out of the Brewers season. So the Mets move on, and look, Pete Alonso needed to do that. He needed to do it for himself. He needed to do it for his teammates. He needed to do it for the team and the fans of New York. Being honest, he has done absolutely nothing and really hasn't provided much since the first half of the season. The second half has been a drag for him. I know his numbers don't look bad, 34 homers, but no key home runs. Well, this was the key of key home runs. This was probably the penultimate of his career. This was the Chris Chambliss in '76 to send the Yankees into the next round, and Joe Carter winning the World Series. Well, that might be a little bit more, but winning the World Series against the Blue Jays, and there are others that had big moments. Bobby Thompson, of course, but this was Pete Alonso. To this point, we are hoping that he has some more. Maybe he can catch fire like Daniel Murphy did in 2015 and carry us to the World Series. We'll have to see. That remains to be seen yet. But so far, this was the penultimate home run of his career, and one of the the best games in Mets history, I guess. And after this week, they've had two of the craziest games in their entire history, and most important games. And this one even more so because of the elimination factor of it. And let's be honest, they didn't do a thing. I think they had two hits up to that point until Nimmo singled, and both hits came from Lindor. So Lindor works out a walk. Uh, Vientos is out, and then Nimmo comes up, strokes a single to right center field, and then Alonso, of course, hits the 3-run homer to put the Mets ahead 3-2. And notice, if you will, two things. A, he choked up a little bit on the bat, and B, he hit it to the opposite field. Two things he wasn't doing. He was trying to pull everything. At least that's the way it looked. He wasn't looking to drive to the opposite field. Well, he was looking in that at bat. He was patient, and the results speak for themselves. This is what they were doing in the game one against the Brewers. They were going the opposite way. Marte did it the whole series. He was hitting everything to right field and was very successful with it. So this is what they have to do, and they can continue this against the Phillies. Though I think the Phillies could end up being a home run derby. Of course, Philly is a hitter's ballpark in a home run ballpark. So we shall see how that works out. But maybe Alonso, now that he's got the monkey off of his back, maybe he can go on a tear, and if he could, much like Daniel Murphy did, this could be uh, a long run for the Mets. Let's hope for the best. They will play the Phillies starting on Saturday, and should be a good series. We'll see. That is a best of 5, so you have a little bit more breathing room, and they finally get to come home for game 3 of that series. So they at least get one game at home, the Mets will. So if they can win a couple of games, win a game in Philly, they'll have to go 4. They'll have 2 games at home. Should be interesting series. Of course, the Phillies are well rested and they have their pitching all lined up. Sometimes that's not a good thing, though. Sometimes there can be a hangover. Sometimes you get a little bit of rust, especially in that first game. So it would behoove the Mets to really go out and push and try to get that first game. You win that sets up then the possibility of winning at home, of eliminating it at home. It's 2-2-1. So if they can split in Philly, and I always like to win game 1, and then come to Citi Field and sweep there, they're into the next round. And none of these are going to be easy from here on in, and it wasn't easy this far, but boy, it has been exciting. And like I said, I'm in shock still over this past week, and I'm in shock over that game because Alonso has been struggling. Let's be honest about that. And for him to come up with that big hit was just incredible. And it came at the perfect time. It was, and that's why sometimes you think, oh, wow, is this are they this year's Cinderella team? This is the team that's going to go to the World Series and maybe eke out a victory in the World Series. We don't know. Once this tournament starts, and it is a tournament, anything can happen. We've seen the road teams, the lowest seeds win in the American League. The Royals eliminated the Orioles in 2 straight. The Tigers eliminated the Astros very impressively. If anybody watched that boy, the Tigers were impressive. And so the Mets will take on the second seeded Phillies on Saturday, as I said, in the NL Division Series, beginning with game one at 4:08 p.m. at Citizens Bank Park. Now, the Mets did drop 7 out of 13 games, but did take 3 out of 4 in the team's final series at Citi Field in that big weekend series in September before going to Atlanta. And those games were critical, and those wins were all critical to to the Mets' chances. Now, they're going to be facing, my guess would be Wheeler, maybe Suarez in game two, Aaron Nola maybe in game three, or some in that order, but they'll be looking at those guys. And as I said before, they were well rested. So, it'll be tough. It'll be a little bit tough for the Metsies, but the way they're playing, you just never know. And rumor has it that McGill may go game one. Well, wouldn't you know it? Just as I was finishing up the show, across the wires comes the fact that Kodai Senga is starting tomorrow night for the Mets. Senga will go against Wheeler. The official Mets site, Mets.com, OMG, has Senga listed as the starting pitcher tomorrow evening or tomorrow late afternoon against Zach Wheeler. There are no other pitches listed except for Christian Sanchez will go Sunday for the Phillies. The Mets have not named a starter for game two, but on the Mets official site, their MLB site, it has Kodai Senga as starting for the New York Mets. So I'm going to put this in the video. Any further mention of Tyler McGill starting, just disregard, as this news is fresh. It just came across the wires. So there you go. One, Severino on proper rest would go game two. And I'm thinking Minaya, who pitched, I believe he pitched Tuesday or Wednesday. No, Wednesday he pitched. So he would be ready to go on rest as well. So we'll see how it goes. But it's getting exciting here now as we really get down to the nitty-gritty. And the rumor is that Kodai Senga could be in the conversation and could be placed on the NLDS roster for the Mets. Now, to what extent he could go, he's not really stretched out far enough. He threw about 25 pitches the other day and felt pretty good. He could be used as a one of those openers, pitch an inning, maybe two if he gets through quickly, and then bring in the bullpen. He could come out of the bullpen if he felt comfortable with that role. That all remains to be seen. But Kodai Senga could be considered for the roster for the NLDS, and that would be a shot in the arm for a pitching staff that is a little beleaguered. It's a little tired now. It has to be, especially the bullpen. Bullpen's got to be tired. They used David Peterson to close that game, and Peterson was terrific again. So I really thought he might open up Saturday, game one, but I guess they have made the decision to use him in the bullpen. And with a Phillies team with a lot of heavy hitting lefties, that might be a good decision. Though they have some real good righties that can hurt you badly, but um, they might want Peterson in the bullpen for this series and from the series on. So we'll see how that shake out when the rosters are announced. But that's it. Now we wait, see, and man, it's gonna be big. Let's take a break right here and come back right after this.
Baseball and BBQ, your place for interesting baseball talk, opinions, and history.
Baseball and BBQ, your place for barbecue recipes, tips, and interviews from the world of barbecue. If you like baseball and if you like barbecue, then tune in to Baseball and BBQ. Find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and BaseballTalkRadio.com.
All right, we're back, and I have to cover this news because it's important in the game of baseball. Another player passed away. Hit King Pete Rose died on Monday at the age of 83. Pete, of course, was a Cincinnati native, became a franchise icon for the Reds. He's the club's all-time leader in games, plate appearances, runs, hits, singles, doubles, and walks. 24-year career spanned from 1963 to 1986. He also played for the Phillies and the Expos, and he collected 4,256 hits, the most in Major League history. Of course, he had admitted to gambling. He was suspended for life by Bart Giamatti, the commissioner at the time, and he didn't admit at that time. He admitted it later on in life, and is not in the Hall of Fame. My guess that within a few years he will be put in the Hall of Fame. How can you have the all-time hit leader, Charlie Hustle, and I know the gambling and all of that kind of nonsense. And I say nonsense because it is not right thing to do. But now all of these major leagues, the NFL, the MLB, the NHL, the NBA, they're all partners with gambling organizations. How you swing it, what you want to call it, it's still gambling. DraftKings is gambling. ESPN bet is gambling. I know there's so many of them now. MGM Grand or whatever they call it is gambling. It's all gambling on sports. And they embrace it now. So it's time. Whether the Hall of Fame is supposed to be for players that, were the best and the greatest in the game on the field. I'm sure there are other gambler, Ty Cobb's in the Hall of Fame. There was rumors that he gambled. That's why he retired. Tris Speaker, there were rumors about him. We have the steroids and the steroid guys, I'm sure, in the Hall of Fame that got in. it's time. It was time a couple years ago while the man was still alive, so he could at least enjoy a year or so of it. Now it's too late, but now it's time to put it in and seal his legacy as one of the greatest hitters in baseball. He wasn't the greatest ball player by any means. He did it through grit and determination and hustle. And he put the bat on the ball and he hustled. He ran everything out. He slid head first. That's why they call him Charlie Hustle. And he made things happen. And he made himself into a great ball player. This guy was an all-star, I think, in 3 different positions. He came up as a second baseman. He played left field and made his 1 year on the all-star team. First base made the all-star team. He was scrappy. And like I said, he hustled on every play. He deserves to be in Cooperstown at the Baseball Hall of Fame. I know it's a non-Met related item, but I think it's important to the game of baseball in general. So that's why we mention it. Pete Rose, our condolences go out to his family. And that's going to wrap it up for this week's show. Here we go. Buckle your seatbelts because we're going into the National League Division Series. Mets versus Phillies, best of 5. Keep it here and let's go, Mets. And remember, until we meet again, keep the faith, stay optimistic, and let's go, Mets. And I'm Gary Mack, and I'll see you next time on another edition of Mets Musings.